is from Al Jazeera. Israel has launched a massive assault on the West Bank. Why, and why now? Hundreds of Israeli soldiers are conducting a major assault in the occupied West Bank in Jenin, Tokarim, and the Farah refugee camp near Tubas.
Israeli forces have killed at least 10 Palestinians in what is to be Israel's largest assault there in 20 years, as they claim they are targeting armed terrorists who pose a threat to security forces. The Palestinian Authority president condemned Israel's assault and warned it would usher in dire and dangerous results. President Mahmoud Abbas returned early from a visit to Saudi Arabia. Israeli assaults on refugee camps and towns in the West Bank are a near daily occurrence and have intensified since October 7th. The scale of the current attack raises questions about its timing and motives. October 7th is the date when Hamas launched Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, which killed 11... We're not just going to go over this because I'm tired of reading about October 7th. Since then...
It's for real. Like, you would think that literally that's when this all started, and that it wasn't like years upon years ago. Decades. It's been decades.
Started in 1948.
Yeah, that was almost 100 years ago.
Yeah, 80 years ago. Since then, Israel has killed at least 40,534 people and wounded another 100,000 in Gaza. It has killed 662 Palestinians and injured another 5,400 in the West Bank during the same period. In the West Bank, new Palestinian movements have arisen, affiliated with established ones, but developing their own strategies against the Israeli occupation after losing patience with the status quo.
And they just don't stop a genocide. What else are you going to do? You either die or you fight back.
There's no Hamas in the West Bank, so what is your reason for being in the West Bank?
ISIS.
On October 19th, a suicide attack in Tel Aviv claimed by Hamas seemed to raise concerns in the Israeli security establishment. This was a signal that Palestinian groups in the West Bank in clandestine cells are moving towards more offensive action, Ramallah-based political analyst Omar said. He added that the Palestinian Authority is slowly losing hold over social classes, particularly in the north of the West Bank, coupled with the rise of a new generation of Palestinians that are taking the struggle up in their own terms. This may have led Israeli forces to feel the need for a more proactive offensive strategy, Omar said. Now there is an invasion and offensive action, including arrests, and to reach dense urban areas in the north of the West Bank. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz said the assault is to dismantle Iranian Islamic terror infrastructures in the areas under attack. Is there any evidence? Did they provide any evidence of this? Katz is not to be taken seriously at all, political analyst Ori Goldberg told Al Jazeera. The great thing about connecting these groups to Iran threat is it lets Israel off all hooks. Omar dismissed the idea of links between groups in the West Bank and Iran as peripheral at best. There are elements of logistical support for these groups coming from outside of Palestine, Omar said, but there are a lot of indigenous factors behind the rise of these movements. The recent assault comes as things calm down, another front for Israel. On Sunday, Israel hit Hezbollah in what is declared a preemptive strike, while Hezbollah said it had launched 340 rockets at 11 Israeli military bases. The two have traded attacks regularly across the Lebanon-Israel border since October 8th, which have led to the evacuation of residents of southern Lebanon and Israeli border villages, a situation their inhabitants are growing increasingly frustrated with. The situation on the Lebanon border has calmed, according to Israel's allies, but Israel's war on Gaza continues, even as talks to reach a ceasefire are ongoing. Observers do not hold out much for hope for them. Some analysts believe the assault in the West Bank has been spurred on by right-wing politicians who have increasing power and influence in Israeli society. Led by National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, this faction is pushing for Israel to go further on the West Bank in what analysts said are efforts to completely annex the land and displace Palestinians. A statement by Katz on Wednesday that Israel should displace Palestinians living in the northern West Bank, just as it does regularly to the people in Gaza, has raised fears further on that front. In recent months, the far right has been vocal about its desire to annex all of the West Bank as it grows stronger under the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose coalition relies on Smotrich and Ben-Gvir's support. Netanyahu has faced several domestic obstacles in recent months, including widespread protests against his rule, scathing criticism from the captive's family over his lack of action to return their loved ones, and increasing frustration from displaced Israelis. Despite this growing burden and his giving the far-right increasing influence, Netanyahu still holds a slight lead in national polls over his main rival for the premiership, Benny Gantz.
Really?
Yeah.
So Gantz is his rival for being able to take over. Is that what I'm gathering? Sorry, are you?
He's like, I guess, like the next person they have that's polling well, probably for like prime minister.
He's so crazy.
Benny Gantz is a little more moderate. Oh, slightly more moderate than Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Netanyahu is not a madman, Goldberg said. He knows his constituency and his supporters. He knows most Israelis are at a loss in front of the unfolding of events over the past year, but you will not find a single Jewish Zionist politician who has come up with the alternative political or military vision. Israel's continued fight on multiple fronts is likely to continue. Analysts say ongoing ceasefire talks over Gaza have hit multiple snags. Israel continues to hit Hezbollah targets, and this latest assault is an intensification in an already simmering West Bank. There is a continuation to a genocidal logic unfolding in Gaza since October, when there is no accountability and no impunity is not just a likelihood or a possibility, but virtually guaranteed because of the United States' very specific role in this, and to a lesser but significant extent, the EU's role in all of this, said Elia Ayub, researcher and writer and host of Fire These Times podcast, told Al Jazeera.
Genocidal logic just feels like two words that shouldn't go together.
This is from Amanda Weiss. Israel launches large-scale military invasion in the northern West Bank. The Israeli army claims that its operation in northern West Bank cities of Jenin, Tulkarem, and Tubas is the largest since Operation Defensive Shield in 2002.
The Israeli army announced on Wednesday at dawn that it's launching Operation Summer Camps. Do they know what a summer camp is? A large-scale military operation in the cities and refugee camps of the northern West Bank, including Jenin, Tulkarem, and Tubas. The operation is targeting Palestinian armed resistance groups that have spread throughout the northern West Bank over the past 3 years. The Jenin Brigade, the Tulkarem Brigade, and the Tubas Brigade have come under an intensified Israeli counterinsurgency campaign since the summer of 2023, which has only intensified since October 7th. As of the time of writing, the operation has involved the use of reconnaissance planes and helicopters, the entry of armored vehicles and D9 bulldozers into neighborhoods, causing widespread destruction to civilian infrastructure, and the killing of 10 people, mostly through drone strikes, and the injury of dozens of people from gunfire. Israeli forces have imposed a blockade on the cities of Jenin, Tubas, and Tulkarem, closing streets and roads leading in and out of the cities, while hundreds of troops have been mobilized to invade the 3 refugee camps where resistance fighters are stationed. Is there any actual evidence of these resistance fighters that they're going in after, or are they just assuming that they're there because all the horrible shit that they've done?
There's no evidence that there's no evidence for it.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured, but yeah.
Israel just does what it wants. Proof or no.
The army has also deliberately obstructed the work of ambulance teams, preventing them from reaching the injured in areas targeted by the airstrikes. The Israeli Army radio reported that the operation in the northern West Bank is the largest of its kind since Operation Defensive Shield in 2002, and is expected to last for several days.
I bet. They're going to start one place and they're going to move on. It's going to be just like Gaza. And for what? For no reason. They're just going to bomb these people.
Yeah.
Palestinians. Free Palestine.
It's we're afraid that you're going to rise up against us, and in reality we're doing a really horrible thing, and we're surrounded by other Arabian countries that would join you and have even spoken out against what they've done. So it's like, it's like being the minority in a group and deciding that you have the right to just start fucking punching everybody because you're afraid one of them might punch you.
Yeah,
I don't know how. There's no logic behind it. Like,
they think Daddy USA is going to be to save them anytime they need it, and
we will.
They're sadly correct.
And this is what all of your hard work, all those tax dollars that you're paying, this is what it's going towards. Yep. The Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, Israel Katz, said on X that the operation must deal with the armed groups. Just as we deal with the terrorist infrastructure in Gaza, including the temporary evacuation of Palestinian residents, the temporary evacuation of Palestinian residents, adding that the Israeli assault is a war in every sense.
Bombs against civilians is not war. That's terrorism.
Slaughtering. It's almost
What
genocidal.
resistance groups? What losses have IDF taken?
Well, they may have shot each other on accident.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they'll blame Palestine. You know? Yeah, sorry, that one's hard. Temporary. The invasion of Jenin and the Jenin refugee camp commenced in the pre-dawn hours on Wednesday, beginning with the incursion of Israeli special forces. The discovery of these forces led to armed clashes between the resistance fighters and the occupation forces. During the clashes, Israeli soldiers opened fire on civilians near the Jenin governmental hospital, resulting in the killing of 2 young men and the injuring of 3 others. 3 others were killed near the villages of Sur and Malsia, south of Jenin, during an Israeli airstrike on a vehicle carrying a group of young men from the Jenin refugee camp. Just keep hitting hospital vans and shit, guys. It's shooting fish in a barrel is all they're doing now. Analysts speaking to local media sources say the operation is likely intended to lure resistance fighters out of the camp and then target them with airstrikes or carry out arrests. I'm sorry, but if you're in an area and you aren't supposed to be there and you start opening fire just to see who's going to come out to fight back, that's not finding resistance groups. You're just finding people that care about
Want to
people.
defend their family against people who are shooting them up.
Or their neighbor, their friend, their cousin, you know, their preacher, their school teacher. That's it. It's like anyone would do that. Like
Americans understand that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Like more than anything, we are the ones that should, because that's something we preach all the time, is how family oriented, how we always stand up for one another, blah blah blah.
We like can't stand for tyranny. Why we have all these guns, right?
No, I like to shoot bunny rabbits with my AK-47 so I can cook the meat.
Under no pretense.
The only part that's left, of course, would be the rabbit foot, you know, because an AK-47 would fucking shred it to pieces. But yeah, let's use that as logic to own a fucking AK-47.
I want an AK-47.
In town. During the incursion, the Israeli army also imposed a siege on hospitals, blocking access to Ibn Sina Hospital in Jenin with dirt barricades and surrounding the Jenin governmental hospital. The army also hindered the work of ambulances by stopping and searching them every time they tried to enter or leave any of the city's hospitals. Ouch. According to Israel's Channel 14, the Israeli army intends to search Palestinian patients entering the besieged hospitals in Tulkarem and Jenin. Mondawai's reporting on the ground observed the practice in front of Jenin Governmental Hospital, where the army was sighted searching for patients. The governor of Jenin, Kamel Abu Arab, has stated that the Israeli civil administration informed him of the army's intention of raiding the Jenin Governmental Hospital, not just to close its entrances. The hospital is the only governmental medical facility in the Jenin governorate. The Israeli army has denied these claims, asserting there is no intention of raiding hospitals in Tulkarem or Jenin. You can't say you're not going to do it when you're fucking actively doing it.
They're just liars. They lie
like,
all the time.
I'm not going to hit you on the arm.
They lie all the time. Like water's not wet, sun's not hot.
Sky's not blue, grass not green,
yeah.
Dirt's not brown. Yeah. The Israeli army has denied these claims, asserting there's no intention of raiding hospitals in Tulkarem or Jenin, despite having closed their entrances, and that the hospitals are operating as usual without any damage to their infrastructure. Oh, okay, so it's not considered a raid if we don't blow your shit up. Cool, okay. The army also stated that patients and ambulances are allowed to enter after undergoing security checks. It's funny how they say that it's not a raid because they're saying that like we haven't killed anybody in the hospital yet, we haven't blown anything or destroyed anything yet, so as long as it's still operating okay on the inside, it's not a raid, even though we're going in there without permission, illegally, against all kinds of medical, what would you call it? Wouldn't probably called HIPAA over there, but a lot of, you know, medical information and privacy acts that they may have, you know. You're going in and searching for very specific people. It's almost like you're going in there and you're raiding their information to find out who's Palestinian. So it sounds like a raid to me. You don't have to blow shit up to raid somewhere. I could go raid Walmart and I don't have to blow anything up or destroy anything. I just have to go raid it, like take things.
Right.
Everybody sees it. You're so stupid.
Or like that time you sent in Israeli assassins and were killing people in their hospital beds.
They probably could have got away with this shit like before cell phones were so readily available and the internet was so readily available and you know TikTok and YouTube were so readily available. They probably could have gotten away with saying like we're not doing it, and we probably would be like, nah, we believe them. They're not doing it. But now people can actually fucking see you doing this shit in live time because your own people are posting it.
Yeah, so like but nowadays there's no reason to eat their bullshit up.
Yeah, because you can see it now. You can do your own like it's all available now. You can't hide it anymore. The Israeli army has also conducted a widespread arrest campaign in the Jenin Governorate, transferring detainees to a center established in the evacuated settlement of Kedumim and Jenin. The army has set up tents there and is transporting detainees to these facilities for field interrogations. In Tokorim, the occupation forces continue their assault on Nur Sham's refugee camp, east of the city, notifying residents to evacuate within 4 hours. Army bulldozers accompanied dozens of armored vehicles, destroying the main water line supplying the camp and causing extensive destruction to civilian infrastructure, including the camp's entrances, main streets, and civilian properties, along with the adjacent Nablus Road. The army imposed a strict military cordon around the camp and positioned snipers on the rooftops of surrounding buildings. Meanwhile, Israeli forces also blockaded the Al-Isra Specialized Hospital and the Martyr Thabit Thabit Governmental Hospital, preventing people from entering and exiting and obstructing the movement of medical teams while subjecting them to lengthy security checks. In Tubas, 2 young brothers and 2 other young men were killed in an airstrike by the Israeli drone on the Al-Farara refugee camp south of Tubas. Israeli forces had raided the camp in the middle of the night with a large number of infantry soldiers, followed by military reinforcements from the direction of the Hamara checkpoint, which were accompanied by a bulldozer. The army deployed snipers inside and around the camp amidst intensive drone surveillance. Additionally, the forces raided a medical center in the Al-Farara camp, detaining staff and assaulting the ambulance center manager, Nidal Ada, while firing shots inside the center.
There's no Hamas in the West Bank.
You're raiding hospitals. Also, just in case you don't know, but like in a hospital when there's an ambulance and they get like called out to do something, it's called an emergency. So if you're taking an hour to do security checks that are unnecessary, forceful, and just plain out stupid, then you're delaying them being able to take care of people who may not even be Palestinian. Maybe it's an Israeli person that needs help. Did you think about that? No. You're too busy trying to do this campaign of just eradicating everybody that's Palestinian, regardless of where you send them. You're still trying to chase them down and kill them. What the fuck? They're running.
There's no reason to be in the West Bank. You keep talking about October 7th. That was Hamas, not the West Bank. It doesn't, every correlation.
Everything you try to make logical is illogical.
Yeah.
There's information too readily available for you to continue your lies and bullshit. Your own people posted a video of locking a mom and her baby in a house, setting it on fire, and singing.
Or
that just happened today.
Or the killings of the Flower Massacre.
Oh, the Flower Massacre?
Starving people.
That never happened.
Starving people. Flower truck. They rush the flower truck because they're starving to death, and you mow them down. Now, what if we just talked about the Flower Massacre every fucking time? We should bring up the Flower Massacre every time they bring up October 7th.
Yep. Or something earlier than that.
Or the other 1,000 fucking war crimes they committed.
Now what? Now you have made up all these other resistance groups because you killed some people and some people came to help? Like, well, what? Where's the logic? I don't get it.
Stop murdering Palestinians.